Middle-aged gamers, are you looking for good gaming suggestions? Today, thanks to Metacritic, we have a list of the top 10 games so far in 2024 as averaged out by all the various critical publications and Nintendo Live. This is just for the Switch, so keep that in mind. And let's talk about some of the games. Some of the games Adam and Antoine will be able to talk about a bit more just because while I'll be familiar with the franchise, I didn't get into playing Nintendo until the late 2010s, something along that line. Number one is Castlevania, which didn't catch me by surprise because that's such a huge franchise. The Netflix show is super, super popular, and lots of people were disappointed when Netflix said, no, we're not making this anime anymore. The games, of course, did really well on the Switch, so again, this is not 100% a surprise to me because people love the franchise, especially middle-aged gamers who grew up with Castlevania in the 90s, or I think it is the 90s for the first Castlevania games. Number two is Pentiment. Pentiment is a game, again, another very beautiful art style game. This is a game I bought and I played it for an hour, then I didn't play it again. And don't let that turn you away. But it was just because this was more along the lines of Disco Elysium in the sense of it was very text heavy. And at that point, like I have to be in a mood to want to read stuff, which is very rare these days if it's not the news or about business or something because of work. If you're in the mood for a text-heavy game, Pentiment is there, and it looks great, and it's set in this medieval universe. There's supposed to be some sort of interesting mechanics in there, but it's definitely very much a reading game. It's also very much one of those games where you want to play on a TV rather than in handheld mode because it is a lot of text. And the Switch OLED will probably make that a lot better, but if you have an older Switch like I do, yeah, it is probably not a great suggestion for that. Number three was not necessarily number three, but the other game that caught my attention was Balatro. Balatro, a very famous card game, just using a standard 52 card deck, but they had some really cool mechanics that people were really excited about. There's a lot of betting. It has like a rogue-alike element. This is on my list of things to play at some point because people were playing this until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when it first came out. So definitely a game for you to consider. Another game is Unicorn Overlord, again in the top 10. Unicorn Overlord, I believe Antoine talked about this at some point, or Adam, or both of you. Again, I know nothing about Unicorn Overlord and its relation to previous games. I did watch a bunch of reviews about this because I was like, oh man, this looks like a really cool game. I want to buy it. And again, people were like, yes, great art, great story, great combat, which is something I always like as well. But again, it is one of those like first party titles. So you're going to be paying $60 to $70 depending where you live if it's not on sale at the moment. The next game, Prince of Persia, another game I played for just an hour before I got distracted by something else. But again, this is the one that came out earlier this year. This is one of the games that Ubisoft, spent a lot of time on. Go back to last week's story where I talked about Ubisoft being private, and they were like, yes, we're going to change the Prince of Persia formula. It's not going to be like the Sands of Time, and it is going to sell. And it was critically reviewed. Everyone loved it, but not many players bought it. And so, in Ubisoft's eyes, in their shareholders' eyes, this was a failure. And this has contributed to some of the sort of turmoil that's going on inside the company at the moment. But again, really wonderful game. I had nothing bad to say about it. Again, it was just me being distracted, me wanting to play other stuff, me not being in the mood for that kind of game. But it was fun. It was not too difficult. And with later patches, right, this game has like a difficulty slider now after like patch 1.4, 1.5. So if you're not good, and it'll increase the time for you making jumps, right, because there is a lot of moving in the air and dodging stuff. So it does make the game easier. So if you're one of those people like me who are like, oh my God, I don't like hard games, right now it actually can be pretty easy. The last two I'll talk about really quickly is Paper Mario, the 1000 Year Door. Paper Mario, the Paper King or the Something King or the Something King game. That was also a really good game. People liked it, but it was not really well liked because the mechanics were weird. But this was a game where this is coming back to form for a Paper Mario game. Again, another expensive game, but if you really like the art style, I love the Paper Mario art style. If I see this game on sale somewhere, if I go to Korea on Thursday, I'm going to be buying that. And the last game is Cat Quest 3, which I played Cat Quest 1 on my iPad. And that was a really cool game if you're into animals, if you're into cats. It just looks cute. It's actually not like a really complicated game. It reminded me of that Zelda ripoff on the iPad. I can't remember what the name was. But yeah, very simple RPG, definitely meant for your preteens or younger kids. not very complicated. It's still got dodge and roll mechanics, fighting and slashing. And through the Cat Quest, it's just expanded the mechanics in some ways. But a really cool list of games. Check them out if you haven't had a chance to check them out. If you're looking for game ideas, I'll make sure the link to the full list is down in the show notes. Some really good suggestions here for a wide variety of players, and let me know what you think.